Mike Tallier, 427 Central Road. There was an incident on the bridge after this new law that you guys passed. Somebody got a ticket for trying to display an American flag, and I don't think you guys want to go there with trying to enforce a law where you can't even display a flag on a public sidewalk. I understand you got a letter from an attorney represented by the people that got the ticket requesting you rescind the law, otherwise further legal action may happen. Do you want to spend money trying to uphold an ordinance where you can't display a flag? I mean, think how foolish you'll look, and think of the foolish waste of money that is. I also understand there's another public interest law firm that's interested in representing people in another suit against this ordinance. So that's going to be coming. I don't think it's wise use of money. It's not right. And it's just ridiculous. The people on the bridge probably would have been off the bridge after one or two rallies that happened. Well, you kept pushing the issue to pass it, to ban it, and you've inflamed people to challenge something that if you would have just let it go, let people exercise their rights, there wouldn't be an issue. So you got some time to rescind it, to get rid of it, save a lot of people in this town money, and that's what you got to do. It's the right thing to do.
I was asked and I accepted to be the plaintiff for that law firm, nationally renowned law firm.
So there's going to be two coming.
My name is Don Weckler. I live at 1719 Caroline Street. Here, you all know me. I also, going along with that, think that this ordinance should be rescinded, probably along with some other points of the sign ordinance. There was this issue here a few years ago about down by the tavern there about somebody had a sign with lights on it, and that was struck down. I personally am offended by that, and I think it was also, how would you say, it's directly an act of a government body infringing on freedom of speech directed towards themselves, and I think that's pretty weak. Regarding this issue about holding protest rallies and displaying signs, banners, flags, balloons on this bridge out here, I think it's kind of weak to call that a safety issue. To me, it's bipartisan politics. I called the secretary, the vice secretary, the DOT. His name is Mike Berg. And I asked him about the situation. He said, we have no interest in this. He's speaking in terms of the Department of Transportation. He said, I will run this past our legal department. He said, we're not going to act on this. We have no interest in it. He says when the recall election came up for Governor Walker, they held protest rallies or whatever you want to call them and displayed banners on the overhead bridges in Milwaukee. He said the DOT did nothing about it, no interest in it whatsoever. He said, I will run this past our legal department for comment, and he said, I'll get back with you in a few days. And he did. He called me back, and this is what he said. He says that it's their opinion of their legal department, and this is not an official, something written up on their letterheads or anything like that. But he says this is just an opinion of their legal department. Two guys talking over their desk. He said that it's questionable. He said it's unclear whether the displaying of this banner is any more or less of a distraction to motorists than it would be a highway billboard sign. They say that if this town passes an ordinance to forbid the display of banners and such here, he says if there's a violation and they go to court over it, that the town has a really weak case. I guess I'll go along with what's been said here already. I think that this goes to court, this is a big waste of my tax money, and I hate it. I just
Shouldn't go to court then, you wouldn't have to worry about wasting tax money.
I am straddling two sides. Yeah, I'm straddling two sides of the fence on this, where I, as a taxpayer, don't want to pay, I don't want to finance this conflict. But I, as a taxpayer, on the other hand, am a U.S. citizen. I have the right to display, to say things publicly. I feel that there's some bipartisan politics being brought into this thing, and I'm having it shoved down my face. I think that I have the right to speak out against certain political elements, certain things that are happening in politics. This is a time of great peril to our country. This is probably one of the worst financial situations that our country has probably been in its history. There's a tipping point that we're going over here. There's a lot of people that have been dumbed down so much. This whole thing, it gets eaten into our education system and everything. People should be up in arms over this type of thing. And I'm talking in terms of national politics. This is awful, and more people need to be involved in it.
So why aren't you guys fighting with the state over limiting people protesting at the Capitol?
How do you know we aren't, or don't support what's going on over
It
there?
seems like a bigger issue to me. I mean, the state is passing.
Okay, now you're changing the subject here. That's
No, I'm not. It's the same thing.
You're absolutely changing.
I'm
We're talking about the
asking
town
you
of
how,
Campbell here.
If the state can regulate political dissent in the Capitol, how can the town of Campbell not regulate where it takes place here?
Well, wait a minute here.
All they ask for at the Capitol is a permit. It's real easy to get. There's no fee. So why don't you do it like that then? If you're going to compare the two.
Something we can look at.
Okay.
The thing of it is that, you know, I understand what you guys are talking about. I understand your concern. There's a whole group of people that has another concern that lives over there.
Right, but
I have to represent everybody, not just you guys.
okay, I have a constitutional right to free speech. You or those people do not have a constitutional right not to be annoyed or to be distracted. You absolutely are. You don't have a right not to be distracted or offended, but I do have a right to free speech.
And there's a time and a place for that.
Okay.
Well, you're saying,
And the time and the place is going to be in the federal courtroom.
There's another thing, you talk about time. How many hours are we talking about? If people have a protest rally on this bridge for 3 hours, I mean, does it sound like, I mean, you could be out here and run a jackhammer for those same 3 hours, and would it be any less of a disturbance to the neighborhood than that?
The history of that overpass, people being up there, causing people to honk and such when they come by, goes back to the 60s. It goes back to when I was a kid. The police came up there initially and asked you guys to leave because the same as they would ask kids that were up there that were inciting people, and you said no. Okay?
Did you guys
Kids,
ask those
if we
protesters a
if
couple
we tell
years ago
kids, you
in the
can't be up
streets?
here because you're causing the trucks to honk, you're creating a disturbance, they leave.
Wait, who asked someone to leave?
The police did.
No. I was up there every time. No one asked anyone to leave until the ordinance was passed.
I've heard differently from
Okay,
the police
you're wrong.
department. I'll have to
You're wrong.
I'll have to check
Yeah,
with them
yeah.
on that, but that's what I was told.
Okay, well, I just wanted to voice my opinion that I think you're being irresponsible to spend taxpayer money, tens of thousands of it, defending this law, and I think it's irresponsible.
There's no discussion about the rights of the people up on that bridge. There's discussion about so-called safety when, you know, it's nothing more than a distraction, and a billboard's a distraction. And there's talk about noise complaints, but there's no talk about, well, wait a minute here, what's the Constitution say? Look at prior court cases that dealt with free speech and that,
I have.
you know.
I have.
I've heard
Actually,
very little about it.
If you go back, there was a convention in the cities a few years ago, whether it was a Democrat or Republican one, I don't even remember what it was. But cities, they specifically set aside a place and said, this is where you're allowed to protest. So what we're doing is not unusual. We're not taking away anybody's right to protest. We're saying there's an issue with people protesting up there. That's all.
Well, if you think you're bright enough to go up against the Thomas More Law Center in a federal court.
I'm not. That's why we pay attorneys.
Beautiful. All right, you
Well,
guys are all paying for it.
See, you're taking taxpayers' money, people in this town, you're using that money to crush people's rights in this town as well, and
You can
that's
call it
wrong.
that. I don't call it that.
That's what it
You
is.
can call it that.
So, whether you can comprehend that or not, I don't know, but that's what's going on.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
We will.
And I think you're a pretty arrogant individual to sit here behind that desk and say, well, we'll find out, and it's not your money that you're paying the attorney with. That's why you don't care. It's people in here that pay the taxes.
You know
It's
what?
not your money, that's why you don't care.
You can call me
And that's
arrogant.
what's going on.
You can call me arrogant. And
You
say
are.
that, but you know what? Every 2 years, I have to be elected to this position, which means I have to represent everybody. And that means I have to make decisions which lots of people don't agree with. You, Mr.
Even ones
brought
that
up the
violate the
case
Constitution.
about the boards down there, and you said, oh, that was just trying to quash stuff that was against me. Absolutely not. I don't care. And you go put up a sign that says Scott Johnson is piled crap. I really don't care. It doesn't bother me. You call it partisan. I don't care. I don't care about your message, whether you're
I don't believe that. I
anti-Obama
don't
or
believe you.
whatever. It has nothing to do with
I
it.
don't
Your clerk,
I don't
your
care.
clerk was yelling and screaming yesterday when somebody brought in a proposal for a sign that said Chad Hawkins hates free speech.
Does the clerk make the decisions on the board?
No, but he calls 911 on rioters and protesters.
If you think that's slanderous, that was slanderous what you did when you called 911. You slandered those people on the bridge.
Yeah.
So you're saying that's slander. You slandered those people on the bridge the way you described it on the 911 call. Absolutely you did.
Excuse me. My name is Bob Crosse. And I'll tell you, this is getting out of hand, both from you and from you. You don't need to be calling people arrogant, because you're not good. You don't get stuff done.
I don't need a browbeating from you, Bob. You can sit down, okay? This is a free country. This is a lively discussion. This is an important issue.
And I can't-
And if you don't understand that, I'm sorry.
Now, I'm on your side.
Right now,
If
Bob
you-
has the floor.
If you want to shout people down, you're not going to get anywhere that way. You're not making friends.
I'm not here to make friends, Bob.
Evidently.
I'm not. I'm not
But
here to
it's-
make absolutely not here to make friends.
But the point is this whole thing's been handled wrong. It's been handled wrong by you, and it's been handled wrong by the board. That's what I'm about to say. Now,
right.
if you want to listen, you're going to have to, you've got one mouth, 2 ears. Think about that. But I think the board made a mistake here. I really do. I think that there could have been limitations, there could have been stipulations made, and I would agree that signs on that overpass is not quite as distracting as some of the bumper stickers on automobiles, and they're not outlawed. I think that if the town, and I tell you, I think you've damaged a very good sign ordinance with adding this to it. And I think it probably should be rethought. That's my personal opinion. I don't want the town involved in a lawsuit. I don't want these guys on Fox News talking about you people or the town of Campbell. It's not worth it. But it is worth trying to come to some sort of agreement for both of you, because your lives are going to be disrupted the same as everybody in the town. You're going to make no friends, and it is about making friends. I don't care what you think. You make friends with your wife and family. You make friends with everybody. You don't try to beat people down. Try to find an agreement, and that's what I think all of you should do. Thank you.
Anybody else?
And I'll talk earlier, I was over at Bainbridge, but, I think you ought to fire your police chief. You know, I think he was pushing you into it, and inevitably, really stupid mistakes in talking you guys into this. And whenever you pass a law, you infringe on the rights of the people. And we tried to warn you, and we're a group that sticks up for the taxpayers and sticks up for their constitutional rights. I'd like to applaud the guy, the only one that had the courage to vote against you guys. It's just a little token of our appreciation, because I think you saved the taxpayers some toll. And the crazy thing, you know, your good intentions, but whenever you pass a law, you infringe on people's rights. You can say that, you know, people were offended. Yeah, they were offended because the truth hurts. Our country's in a world of problems. And the reason they're honking out there is because of stupid government like what you got here. And a stupid law firm. It didn't take a lot of people to figure out that you were squelching on the rights of the freedom of speech.
You know what? I suggest, since you guys are taping this, that you go back and look at the tape and think about what you just said to me. Okay? I mean, it's really, I've said this before. When you guys first came in here,
We'll show you the
and
tape.
I said, you know, have some consideration for the people that live over there. And you laugh. Like it's a joke, but it's not. Those people live over there. They've been dealing with this stuff for years. It's not a joke.
We got airplanes that are flying right over there.
I live by there.
We don't make, yeah, we were videotaping, you can't even hardly hear
But
the.
did they call you and complain? They called me because I'm the town chair.
That's your job.
They called.
How many people came here and spoke in favor of you doing that?
And
I
people
haven't heard
called
one.
me and said, what are you gonna do?
Nobody showed up to the
You
meetings.
know, and this is what I talked to you about, was neighbor meeting neighbor. Those neighbors didn't come out and talk to me neighbor.
But they
You didn't
called
come out
me.
and talk to me either, neighbor.
But they called
And I
me.
invited you, I would've given you a heck of a good, pork rib.
Just because somebody calls you doesn't mean you do anything. Do you understand that one? If somebody calls you and they want you to squash somebody's rights, doesn't mean you do it.
Have you ever
Okay.
been elected?
What's that?
Have you ever been an elected official?
No.
So you're just worried about getting reelected?
No.
It has nothing to
Oh,
do with the
okay.
conversation, whether I'm elected or not. I'm telling you, if somebody calls you to complain about something, doesn't mean you automatically figure out a way to make something happen. You stop and think about it, you look at the Constitution, you view it in that light. What does that say? What does the highest law of the land say? And you go from there. You don't just, well, we got to do something. Somebody complained. That's the attitude I'm getting from you and this
Well, I
board.
mean, that's your opinion of how.
Of course
Well, you
it
said
is.
it's been going on since the 60s, and now all of a sudden you decided you have to do something about it?
That's because every time there's been an issue with it, the police have went up there and asked, whether it's kids or whatever, to leave, and they have left.
The
That never
police
happened this
also
time.
Closed a street, one of the main two thoroughfares between North French Island and South French Island, to protest in front of Mr. Kapanke's house. That's you know, you cannot protest in front of somebody's personal dwelling. You can hit him on his way to work, you can hit him at his work, but you can't protest in the stupid cop that you got, that you ought to fire. That's my opinion.
Yes, and you're welcome to it, but it's certainly not my opinion.
Well,
You know,
his
and
point,
you think it's not partisan?
how can you justify the closing of that street a couple years ago and never pass a law over that, but then you do the bridge thing when it's, you know, it was hundreds of people, and when you close the street, it's like 15 people on that bridge. You know, I mean, why wasn't? I don't know how you can justify that.
Yeah, and you could hear 2.5 blocks. I mean, that's the only way that I knew that crap was going on along in front of Kapanke's, because I live 2.5 blocks from there, and I'm sort of like, what in the world?
Honestly, I find it comical that you call this partisan when the most partisan people are you. I mean, I'm sitting
I think it's
sticking up
partisan
for
because
free speech
you
is
didn't bother to
partisan.
do it 2 years ago, but you bothered to do it to us because I don't think you like our message.
We're not in government.
don't care
We're
about
not
your
supposed to.
message.
You
Absolutely.
can
Really
be partisan. Government is supposed to try to act nonpartisan.
I am, exactly. I don't know what else to say, you know? I mean, I have a responsibility to everybody.
But you let people bang drums and stuff in front of Mr. Kapanke's house for a couple days? And didn't feel like you had to stick up for him or anyone then?
The street blocked off on paved street with like what, 100 or 200 people?
Did the police ask them to leave that day? Do we know?
Why didn't Deputy Dog come in and save the day on that one? You should have pulled the little aw shucks routine then, huh?
With that one, it happened one day and it was over with before I even knew anything about it.
Oh, okay.
So,
More than one day. Vandalism involved that day too, was there?
Lee Weiss 100 Church Drive. Would it really be that big of a deal for the town to actually come back and revisit that and put some stipulations, or add the permit thing, or say it's only good for as long as there's construction downwind or whatever?
it'd be up to the town board if they decided they wanted to do that.
To me, I don't care either direction. It's not, it doesn't matter to me. It just seems that there's a lot of contention, and it's kind of stupid if we have to sit here and listen to this and then have to pay for it, and have to do all that extra stuff when we could have just sat down and discussed it a little bit more than we already have, and then possibly put something else in there to try to make other people happy. I mean, to add it to say you can't do anything at all is just kind of, I would see as kind of ridiculous. But like I said, it doesn't matter to me either direction.
It's not on the agenda.
No, it's not something we could do tonight.
I don't think the question is who you're going to make happy. I don't think you're going to make everyone happy no matter what the outcome is. What you need to ask yourself is what's the right thing to do? What's the Constitution say? What are the we guaranteed rights in this country?
And probably certain people on the board have different opinions than other people.
I think
about
it's
what the right
clear.
thing
I
to
mean,
do is. I know it's clear in your mind. I mean, that's
yeah, no,
I
it's a
get
living,
that.
changing
I get
thing,
that.
right?
I get that it's clear to you.
Yeah.
I
Well,
see that.
it's a wrong conversation to have who you're going to please. You ought to be asking what's the right thing to do.
I have asked myself that.
Sometimes it takes a federal court to make one's mind right.
Well, it'd be nice to avoid that, but you know.
Yeah, you guys are.
We're
You're the
doing
ones
everything
that.
we can to stop
You're the ones that interrogated a woman for 15 minutes to get a third Chihuahua. So I think we're not going to deal with rational people here that want to make an agreement.
You know what? Anytime you want to do this job, take out papers and run, and then you can deal with the people with the third Chihuahua.
Okay, and I just have to go, aw shucks, oh, this is tough.
It's how it is.
Okay.
Dan did it for 8 years, 6 of them while I was on here. We've had discussions numerous times. Everybody thinks it's a joke until you actually do it. It's far from a joke. It's really how you get things
The
done.
way you do it, it's a joke.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's your opinion. A lot of other people probably in this room think the same thing too.
I'm gonna tell you, you're wrong. You're totally wrong about that. Scott has done a fairly good job. I don't agree with everything he does, and I surely don't agree with all the things that you're saying and doing. And I think that I disagree with Scott a lot, he knows that. I mean, but the point is you're never gonna get anything done calling people names or anything else. And if you can ask Scott if he will maybe revisit the whole thing and come up and sit down and talk about it, that's the best thing to do for everybody.
They're the ones that They're the ones that are.
Excuse me, I have the floor, please. Go ahead.
I thought you were done. Pause for a second, sorry.
But the thing of it is, you're gonna have to get down. Scott's gonna have, you really need to talk this out and calling the police chief names, calling the policeman's name. That's not gonna do you any good. I mean, that's foolish. And there's enough fools in this world without creating more. But the thing to do is try and get an item on the agenda and talk about this issue. Come up with some proposals of your own to take to them. And let's get it done in a civilized way, not through courts, but where everybody else in this room is gonna have to pay for it.
My First Amendment rights aren't negotiable, I'm sorry.
Pardon?
My First Amendment rights aren't negotiable.
That's right.
Okay.
They don't, and I'm not.
You're asking me to negotiate
Okay.
some sort of deal on when I can have the freedom to speak.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that.
That's correct. But the thing of it is, the only reason you have freedom of speech in this room at this particular time is because the board went into open session. The law states.
The law.
The law states that they do not have to go into public session. They can hold this meeting and not let the people speak.
You're changing the subject again. We're talking about the
You say you have
bridge.
a freedom of speech, period. You don't. What I'm trying to tell you is you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, we know that.
You don't put gags on everyone in the theater to prohibit them because they might yell fire.
That's right.
Okay.
But the point is, sit down and talk to them. I mean, don't, if you keep beating your head against the wall,
No.
you get nothing but a concussion.
No, we're going to get satisfaction.
Well, do it again.
We're going to get our constitutional rights back.
You're offended that some people use language you don't like talking about the board, but here's what the board's done. They passed a law to put men with guns to stop people from flying flags on a sidewalk. That's essentially what's happened. When you bring a cop out there, when you bring a cop out there that's a guy with a gun, that if you don't comply, who knows what's going to happen. That's what this town board has done. That's a serious thing, and they deserve to be called out for it.
And I resent,
I don't care if you resent me.
I resent you for calling people bad with guns. I own guns, but now you're
I didn't say
attacking
they were
firearms.
bad.
No, 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 no.
They're using guys with guns. You come
It's
up there
bad
and
when the
stop people from
government
flying a flag.
has guns.
It has nothing to do with it.
My suggestion is, if you can convince everybody on the board that they want changes or whatever, they can bring it to me and put it on the agenda. We can have this discussion, but I think we've had enough discussion for tonight.
Yeah.
So, if somebody has something else they would like to talk